So I get asked all the time, what's the best way to progress around level 250 or even past 250? I get asked almost every single day on my stream, all the time, what do I do? And it makes sense because with the recent hyper burning, there's a lot of people that are level 250 and they don't really know where to go from there, or around 250 or above 250, somewhere around there. And I wanted to make this video to kind of like explain to you guys what to do at that point and what I believe is the most important way and most efficient way and fastest way to progress after 250. And I've done this on my characters before. I've given people the advice and people have legit told them that it completely changed the way they play the game. Like people told me like they were like on the verge of like burning out, but once they did what I told them, they like were way more into the game because the progression just got so much easier. And I genuinely believe that the most important thing to do is to make really good drop gear. So let's just start with what is drop gear, right? So different equips on this game have different, categories, I'd say. So for example, there's your WSE weapon secondary emblem, there's your armors, which are these, and like your CRA. And then there's your accessories, and accessories on this game can roll special lines called item drop rate and meso obtained, right? I'm sure a lot of you guys understand this. And when you're progressing on this game, generally like the advice people give is, oh, you want to make meso drop gear. Like everybody always makes meso drop gear, so they get one line of meso, one line drop on their 9 accessories. Their accessories being the rings, pendants, face, eye, and earring. So there's 9 items total, right? Meso caps out at 5 lines, so that's 5 items, right? 1 line meso across 5 items. And then the remaining 4, you get 4 lines of drop. So typically most people have 100 meso and 80 drop. Now, the thing about drop gear is the item drop rate can go past 80. You can go to 200% just from your equips. And that jump from 80 to 200 is honestly insane gains. A lot of people don't think of that. Often they just think of the meso and they just save their monies, upgrade their gear for more damage. But if you were to invest as early as possible, like even in the 240s, if you were to invest as early as possible into 200% from your gear, it'll make your progression over 2 times faster. Because not only do you get more nodes, obviously nodes, everybody knows they're a big struggle. You get way more nodes, you get way more familiars, and familiars give you a ton of damage. And you get way more droplets too. Well, I don't have any droplets on me, but you get way more droplets. Yeah, you get way more droplets. So people often ask me like, oh, how'd you progress so fast, blah blah blah. Besides the fact that like I play a lot, I invested in really, really good drop gear on my shadower. Even from when I was in my 240s, I invested in max drop gear, max meso gear, and everything, and that made my progression so much faster, so much faster. So a lot of people always complain about familiars, me included. I complain about the familiar system all the time, but if you do have max drop gear, it makes the familiar system less miserable. Like it really does. Obviously it's still shit at the end of the day, like it still is no matter what, but it's just less shit with the max drop gear. Like you do get way more fams, so the chance to hit something good does go up quite a lot, and it's not a little bit. Like you get way more fams, like a lot more. Say with nodes, this 23 nodes, I just farmed for about an hour and like 15 minutes, and I got 23 nodes, which isn't that bad to be honest with you. And I'm only 244. Once you reach Moonbridge, the Moonbridge Lab and Lamina, like you get higher kill rates, meaning you get way more nodes. And I don't even have a large drop fam yet. I just have increased item drop, which increases my drop rate by 50%. Like when I'm farming, oh, my fam's dead, but it increases by 50, so I would be at 267, whereas you ideally want 344 at the max. So yeah, I really wanted to just talk about drop gear. So I'll go over like what my drop gear kind of looks like and what you should kind of aim for when you're upgrading for drop gear. So you need the best way to go about this is you get 5 hybrid lines. So what's a hybrid line? This is a hybrid line when you have 1 meso and 1 drop, because you have both, right? You need 5 of them. The reason you want 5 of them is because meso caps out at 5 lines. So if you have 5 lines of meso / drop, that gives you 100 meso and 100 drop. But since, if you remember, there's 9 accessories, that means you have 4 other accessories you could roll drop on. So if you were to get 5 lines of hybrid and the rest of your items is just 1 line drop, that puts you at 180 drop and 100 meso, which is a really, really good point to be at. But like I said, it maxes out at 200, so you do need at least 1 double drop line. Now, you don't have to get the double drop line because going for specifically double drop is pretty expensive. And I can understand that, like, not everybody, you know, has that kind of income and they don't want to spend that much on just 1 more extra line of drop. I do recommend going for it. This is the last month of Piggy, so like if there was something to spend your piggies on, since there's no Star Force event coming up anytime soon, I would definitely invest in making really, really good meso drop gear. It really makes your progression so much faster. Now, I'll show you my drop gear. So this is double drop, hybrid, hybrid, drop, hybrid, double meso. We'll talk about double meso in a second. Drop, double drop, and drop. So, you know, when you're rolling for double lines, you always want to use bright cubes, by the way. You never want to use glowy cubes. Bright cubes are the new black cubes, so you always want to use bright cubes, formerly known as black cubes, for double lines. So when you're rolling for double lines, there's a chance that you'll get double meso. And double meso at first seems good. It's okay, but you would rather get, you know, the 5 hybrid lines with 1 double drop. It makes it so much easier. But if you do get a double meso, keep in mind that it's going to require you to get 2 double drop lines to get the setup properly. So it is more expensive in the end because you have to start actually hitting like double drops specifically to make up for the double meso. Because you only have 9 slots and you need to hit the 9, you need to hit the 5 lines of meso and 10 lines of drop somehow. So you're going to have to compensate the double meso with a double drop. Now, double meso is really good at the end game. So let's say hypothetically, you're an end game player, right? You know, if you're watching this video, you're probably not an end game player. And you want to train at a really high level area and you want as much damage as possible and you don't care about any of the drops, then double meso is good because you're sacrificing less of your accessories but getting the same amount of mesos. So if you do roll a double drop, you know, consider keeping it. You know, it might come in handy in the future, in the far future, but keep in mind that you're going to have to get double drops to make up for it if you want to train in full meso drop gear. So there's that. Now, how much does this all this cost? I found that, me personally, and from people I've talked to, it costs around 25 to 30 bill to make your drop gear. Obviously, it's best to do it on a potential cube sale, but I would say it's better to do it as early as possible because right now I'm only level 244, right? So I still have a ton of training ahead of me to get to like 275, for example. So if I'm training all those levels with max drop gear, I'm making the most out of all of my mob kills. I'm making the absolute most. I'm not missing on anything. If I were stuck on 80 drop and then I made 200 drop and I'm like 265, that's like 20 levels of max drop that I wasted. So I really recommend making this max drop gear as early as possible. On this character, on my Nightwalker, I legit made it when I was like 235. Literally. Like, I made it like so early just because I know how important it is to get the drop gear. It makes your progression so much easier. So much easier. So instead of just thinking about only saving for damage gear, consider upgrading your drop gear because it'll make everything else in the game so much easier for you. Everything. It'll give you more fams, more droplets, more nodes, everything. So consider that. Now, what items do you want to get, you know, double lines on? Because obviously when you have a double line, you're missing out on damage, right? Like, I don't have luck. As a Nightwalker, like, you know, I scale with luck. But if I have meso drop, I'm not really gaining any damage from this. So you want to roll it on items that could go above 15 stars, ideally. The reason being is because stars over 15 can get attack. And just the raw Star Force stats on an item can make up for the lack of damage you get from potentials, right? So that's like the ideal situation. So if you notice, like, all of my items, well, not all of them, most of them are like decent items to get meso drop gear on. They're items that could go over 15. Event rings are ideal. Event rings are super good value for your meso drop gear. And, you know, if you were a hyper burn, you probably do have some event gears, event rings. So event rings, like if you look at the stats, plus 40 all stat and 25 attack. This Connor's treasure at 17 stars is 63 all stat and 18 attack. So it's only like a little tiny bit better than these event rings. These event rings are like almost like 17-star rings, so they're very, very, very good value to get double lines on. Some things you don't want to get double line on, unless you have no other option, is, you know, like Silver Blossom Ring. It's only 10-star, doesn't even give you that much attack. Superior gear, you want to save it for damage. So ideally you want to use items that you could get over 17 stars and multiple of. Like, you know, you could get multiple Kana's treasures, right? You could have one for damage, one for drop. Same with Mista Ring, same with Slime Rings. Pendants are a lot tougher though. So if you notice, my pendants, you know, they don't go over 17 stars, and they're like shit pendants in quotations, right? Like this item doesn't get flame advantage, and it's only 10-star, right? But pendants are really hard to come by early game. Like, you know, Dominator pendants, as we know, like these things barely ever drop. And then the only other real pendants is like Daybreak pendant, and it's like, how are you supposed to get one early game? And then like Golux pendants, but you need to save your Golux coins, right? So I would recommend, yeah, you could use a Dom pendant if you have one. But if I were to choose one of these two, I would do the Mechanator pendant. Mechanator pendant is advantaged in flame, so at least you could get the flame to help you out in terms of damage. But Horntail earring, all right, Horntail pendant, I don't recommend. But if you gotta do it, you gotta do it. So here's another thing to keep in mind with your pendants. You don't necessarily want to roll, ideally, Meso on your pendants. The reason being is because of the Pendant of the Spirit. The Pendant of the Spirit gives you extra EXP, so if you're training, you know, you would want to swap out one of your pendants for it. But in my case, you know, I just happen to roll Meso on my pendants, and now I can't use the Pendant of the Spirit anymore. I don't think it's ever worth sacrificing Meso at all. Like, I don't think it's worth sacrificing Meso for more drop, for more EXP, anything. I think Meso is always, like, the highest priority on this game. You know, face, obviously, like Zac face, you know, there's not really much better options early game. You could get a Twilight Mark, but it's like, how are you supposed to get one again? So Zac face is okay. Black Bean Mark is really, really good. It's not too hard to get from Chaos Pink Bean. You know, you just gotta hope you get a drop. Like, the boss isn't that hard to do, so I'd recommend going for Black Bean Mark, and it does go above 15, like I said. And then Horntail earrings are really good as well, because it does go over 15. Yeah, so that's like the ideal situation. All your items can go over 15, so that in the far future, when you need more damage, these items are future proof. It's not like they're stuck at 10 stars like a Silver Blossom Ring, and then you have to make another item. You could potentially, you know, get this to 20 stars if you need extra damage. You could potentially get this to like 21 if you need extra damage in the far future. Another thing in terms of drop gear is, if you noticed on my Nightwalker, I don't have damage gear. I legit don't. Like, I do everything, all my weeklies and everything, in this drop gear. And honestly, I think that's the best way to play the game. Like, you really don't need damage gear until, like, you're really trying to go for higher tier bosses. Like, I'm talking like Hard Lucid, Hard Will, and stuff like that, and you're really trying to, like, contribute to those parties. Then I would consider, like, making damage gear. But until then, I really think that people should make really good Meso drop gear, like 180% drop or higher from their equips. Not talking about total here, because a lot of people will count like the Legion drop, or like WAP drop rate, or like FAMs including in this number. No, I'm talking about just from your equips. You gain 180 to 200 drop just from your equips. That's what I'm talking about. Everything else is bonus. Your FAM is bonus, your Legion drop is bonus, the WAP is bonus. You should use those things. You know, obviously, if you could afford them, like Legion coins and stuff like that. But I'm just talking about from your equips, and it'll change your game completely. Like, your progression will over double. It'll become over 2 times faster, just because you'll get way more resources. Yeah, so another thing to mention is the inner ability. So I really do believe that having either first line Meso or second line 15% Meso is crucial. It is crucial. You pretty much almost never roll them. The only classes I really do believe that should roll away their Meso obtained first line is attack speed classes. If classes need +1 attack speed, for example, if you're like a bishop or something and you need the +1 attack speed with like 38 buff, like that's the ideal inner, that's fine. I still think you should keep the 20 Meso for as long as you can. But once you're going for damage, yeah, roll away the Meso for attack speed, but really try to get a Meso line, you know, somewhere in there, like a 15% unique line on your second or third line. It is so important to not miss out on Mesos and drop on this game. It is incredibly important to optimize like as much as you can from every single mob kill. Like, it is so worth it. But yeah, just to throw some numbers out there, yeah, like I said, it costs around like 25 to 30 bill to get the whole setup. From what I've seen, what I've talked to people, it's around 4.5 to 5 bill per item to see some sort of double configuration, whether it's double meso, double drop, or a hybrid line. So there's that. Getting the double drop will help your boss mules as well, because you'll get way more nodes, and you know, that'll just make your progression way faster. One last thing to mention in regards to your drop rate is to get wealth acquisition potions. You could get them from Threads of Fate. I don't have my own Threads of Fate guide. Let me know if you want me to make one. There's already a bunch out there on YouTube. You could just look up Threads of Fate guide, wealth acquisition potion guide, or whatever. There's already a bunch, but this increases your meso and drop by 20%. So ideally at the end game, you have the 200 drop from your gear. You have, you know, 20% from your WAP. Your HS is max. Mine isn't max, but at max it gives a 24% drop. So consider maxing this at some point. And then 100% from your fam. So let's talk about the fams real quick. So how do you go about getting a drop rate fam? You should spam epic fams. That's what I'm doing right now. Like, I'm trying to tier these up to epic. You should spam epics until you hit increases item drop rate by a large amount. That exact line, increases item drop rate by a large amount. That's what you want. Once you hit increases item drop rate by a large amount, that's will bonus 100% drop. And then you straight do unique fams after that. If you want boss or ID, whatever you want, you always do unique. So spam epics until you get large drop, and then do uniques strictly. That's it. That's the tech for fams. And once you have everything all together, 100% drop in fam, 20% from WAP, 24% from HS, 200% from gear, you'll be at 344%. 344%, that's the ideal farming amount. You could obviously get a little bit more. You could get 50% more from Legion Luck. I'm not going to count this into the number, but it does help. It'll put you at 394, but you don't have these all the time, right? Everything else, you have them all the time. It's up all the time. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video to talk about drop gear. I know this is kind of a long video just to talk about drop gear, but it really will save your progression. I get asked literally every single day on what to do around this point in the game. You know, 240s to 260, like somewhere in that middle point when you're hyper burning. Invest in meso drop gear. It is so important. Everybody should do it. It's so important. It will make your life so much easier. So if you have any questions, please leave a comment below. You can also check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/Dookie, and you can interact with me live, ask me whatever you want. I could go over your account, whatever you want, anything on the spot. So yeah, I do appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys for the next video.